When James Carter was accused of a crime he didn't commit, he never imagined how quickly his life would spiral into a nightmare. In the courtroom, the white judge, Robert Hayes, with a cold smile, delivered a guilty verdict that shattered everything James believed about justice. However, behind bars, James vowed not to be a victim of a system built on prejudice. His journey to prove his innocence would lead him to fight for systemic change. James Carter grew up in Meadowbrook, a small provincial town where the color of your skin always mattered. Known for his kindness and respect for others, James had dreams of a better life. From childhood, he knew the world around him was unjust, but he believed he could change that by setting a positive example. Working at a local auto repair shop, James planned to open his own business and eventually leave the town behind. One evening, while walking home from work, James saw police cars near a local store. The store had been robbed, and one witness claimed to have seen a black man fleeing the scene. Without clear evidence, the police arrested James, claiming he matched the description of the suspect. Despite having an alibi, James was denied bail, and the investigation ignored footage that could have cleared his name. The trial began with Judge Robert Hayes presiding, a man infamous in Meadowbrook for handing down harsh sentences, especially to black defendants. James presented witnesses and evidence that proved his innocence, but the judge ignored them. Instead, Hayes focused on the police's claim that they had followed the law, while the prosecutor relied on the vague testimony of a witness who hadn't seen the suspect's face clearly. Despite a solid alibi and the lack of concrete evidence, Judge Hayes found James guilty, sentencing him to 10 years in prison. Shock and disbelief filled the courtroom as James realized his life had been destroyed by an unjust decision. This moment marked a turning point for him. In the first few months behind bars, James fell into despair. He endured harsh treatment from guards and discrimination from other inmates. He wasn't alone in this injustice. Many black prisoners around him had been incarcerated for similar reasons: systemic bias, weak evidence, and in different courts. James's dreams of opening a repair shop were replaced by dark thoughts of revenge. However, one day, he discovered a book on justice in the prison library. For the first time since his arrest, he felt a spark of hope. He began reading every book he could find on law, rights, and the judicial system. What started as a distraction became a passion, and he learned that many laws could be interpreted in different ways. This knowledge became his weapon against the system that had wronged him. As James's understanding grew, he became a symbol of hope for other inmates. He began helping them file complaints, submit petitions, and protect their rights. James's efforts to fight back gave him purpose, but he often questioned whether his fight would lead to real change. Few months later, James decided to file his own appeal. Though the odds were against him, he refused to back down. His appeal was rejected, but James didn't stop. He wrote a letter to a local human rights organization, detailing the injustice he faced. His story caught the attention of activists, and soon lawyers joined his case, determined to fight for a retrial. The media picked up on his story, and soon, people across the country began questioning the fairness of the justice system. Judge Hayes, now under public scrutiny, was forced to reckon with his past rulings. Journalists exposed his pattern of unfairly sentencing black defendants, and public outrage grew. Seeing the rising discontent, Judge Hayes began to reflect on his actions. He realized the immense damage he had caused with his rulings and felt pangs of guilt. In a surprising move, he reached out to the human rights organization supporting James, expressing his desire to meet with him. James was informed that Judge Hayes wanted to meet with him. Initially, James felt anger. How could the judge who had ruined his life hope to make amends? But after some reflection, he saw this meeting as an opportunity for something bigger. In the prison visitation room, James and Judge Hayes sat across from each other. Struggling to find the right words, Hayes finally admitted that he recognized the injustice he had done. He explained that while serving as a judge, he hadn't thought about the harm he was causing. Now, he could no longer ignore the truth. James listened in silence, his gaze calm and unflinching. While he knew he could never regain the years he had lost, he recognized that the judge's remorse was sincere. The meeting ended, and James felt a sense of resolution. His story was no longer just his own. It had the power to change people's minds, even those who had once stood against him. James's case gained national attention, and with the support of activists and public organizations, his case was eventually reviewed. The court acknowledged the mistakes made, and soon, James was released. Upon his release, James knew his fight wasn't over. He immediately joined the movement for justice system reform, speaking at rallies and sharing his story. His words inspired others, and he quickly became a leader in the movement. James also began working with lawmakers to push for legal reforms that would reduce wrongful convictions and improve judicial oversight. His efforts bore fruit. Several new laws were passed to increase transparency in the judicial process and combat racial discrimination. Judge Hayes, now an ally, joined James in the fight for reform. Together, they spoke at forums and appeared in the media, advocating for change. Hayes's transformation became a powerful symbol of how even those who had once perpetuated injustice could change their ways. James Carter's story, which began with despair and injustice, had transformed into a symbol of hope. His fight for justice didn't just restore his own life. It inspired others to believe that change was possible. Standing before a crowd at a rally, James spoke of a future where justice would be fair and impartial for all. His journey from wrongful conviction to advocacy was proof that even one person, with determination and the support of others, could change the system. James's story became a beacon of hope for others fighting for their rights, and his legacy would forever be a reminder that even the darkest moments can lead to the brightest futures.